Hey everyone, welcome back. Panos here from Life with Your Dog podcast. Thanks everyone for different questions that have come in. One of the questions that we're going to talk about today is about toilet training. So 3 different people have messaged me directly or through some of my clients. They asked they want to hear it on the podcast. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to address puppy training or puppy toilet training to begin with. Then we'll talk about a few different variations for older dogs. It can be a little bit of a difference, but generally, once we start addressing the fundamentals of toilet training, management in the house, how do we go about it, and how they're going to learn where to go in the right place, it's going to be very much the same puppies or older dogs. And obviously one of the differences is that an older dog will be able to hold their toilet longer than what a puppy could. So the first thing we're going to talk about, management. Management's always going to come up in a lot of the episodes we're talking here because it's one of the reasons why there's so many dog training issues or behavior problems we see in our dogs, and a lot of it can be lack of good management. So if you're going to get a puppy for the first time, think about when you have your puppy, you want to either do a few things. First of all, think about crate training, think about an exercise pen, think about where do you want your puppy to go to the toilet eventually, so have an end goal. And then also how we're going to manage the puppy inside the house up until we can get to that goal. So crate training is probably a very important thing that we can discuss straight away. I would prefer to see everyone with a fresh puppy if we can start crate training them. Crate training is a really good way of managing your puppy inside of your house. It teaches your pup that we don't go toilet inside the crate and we toilet in the desired area. At first it'll be a pee pad, a grass pad, or outside on the grass, or in a desired location if you don't have the luxury of having a backyard with grass, but we can talk about different variations as well. Crate training also helps with destructive behavior. So obviously they can't really destroy the house if they're inside the crate. And of course it teaches them independence, how to be on their own for a duration of time. And this is a good healthy skill for a puppy to have for the first year of their life. So to start the journey of crate training, big mistake people do is they whack the puppy inside the crate, they close the door, and then they have them there for an hour, and then it's just a very terrible, bad experience to first be introduced to the crate. So the best way to deal with it is that you have your crate. Attached around the crate is an exercise pen. So you have your exercise pen and you have your crate, and you keep the crate door open that's where the dog's bed is. We have pee pads outside in the exercise pen, so that way the puppy goes inside to sleep in the crate while the door's open, and then you can always come outside and play, drink water, go to the toilet in the desired area. And then from this, because we're not going to expect our fresh puppy 8 weeks old to stay in the crate for the whole night, so you have that as your setup. You have that whether it's inside your living room, or you have it in the laundry area, or you have it somewhere where it's desirable to. You can even have this inside of your bedroom to begin with as well. So there's many different variations. This isn't just the one way of dealing with crate training, and I also don't want to focus too much on just crate training on its own, but this is a really good point of how we deal with the toilet training. So have your pen, have your crate attached to it, so that way when you're out of the house, if you're out sleeping, and different times where your puppy has to be on its own, we aren't going to have toileting all over the whole house. You want to have your puppy allowed outside of the pen while you're supervising your puppy. Keep all your bedroom doors closed, maybe even section off certain areas of the house, so that way we can see where the puppy is. If your puppy's going to go off and disappear and go to the toilet, well, we don't know that they've gone toilet, and then we're getting more repetitions of the behavior that we don't want. So as I said, management always number one key. Another good point as well is that if you can section them off into a certain area of the house, so if you're hanging out in the living room watching TV and you enjoy your puppy's space, then you have your puppy there. We don't want him to be hiding somewhere or going to another room and going to the toilet. Remember, 1.6 seconds for a dog or a puppy to make the consequence between their behavior and its consequence. Outside of 1.6 seconds, there is no connection. So if your puppy's going to go behind the lounge and do a pee and you come 20 minutes later, no connection. You cannot get your puppy in trouble, tell them off, even if it was 20 seconds later. You're too late. You want to be in the moment. So for puppies, you set up the environment. We're not talking about the exercise pen now, but outside of the exercise pen, we want to have puppy pads relatively spaced out in that room or in the environment that you're in, but not too close together either. So let's just talk about a normal house. People live in the house. We have the living room. Our desired goal is that the puppy or the dog eventually will go out the doggy door, go to the toilet in the backyard, come back inside. So let's just assume that the door would be out this way, and then in this area here, this is where we're gonna be hanging out with your puppy. You put a puppy pad, you put a pee pad near the front door, you put another one near the where the kitchen is, and you put another one spaced out, maybe closer towards the area of where the puppy's going to go to the toilet eventually. Have them spaced out around the room, but don't have like 100 of them in your house, and don't just have one and the other one's far away. The reason why I say this is that if your puppy's going to the toilet, you catch your puppy in the act of going to the toilet, you pick your puppy up, you put them on the pee pad. So we don't get too mad and scream at them and chase them, because they're just going to learn to hide from you to go to the toilet, because they've made an association of you getting extra mad and crazy every time you go to the toilet. The punishment is, while you pick your puppy up while they're toileting, that is undesirable. That can be punishment enough. You can say no in a firm voice, but we don't get angry. We don't want to make them scared. We say no. We pick the puppy up midstream while it's all happening. We put them back onto the pad. That's one way of correcting it. But we don't want to talk about how to fix the problem. We want to work on the solution. And the solution is we want to be clear with our puppy of where they're supposed to go toilet. So there's a few things we need to address before that. First thing, we want to understand that puppies and dogs will go to the toilet after they eat, after they exercise, and as soon as they wake up. So there's a general times when it's consistent the dogs are going to go to the toilet. And also for a puppy, I'd say every half an hour to 45 minutes, we're going to expect them to want to go to the toilet. So keep those things in mind when you're dealing with this. Don't leave your puppy out of the room for an hour and then expect them to hold it for that long. It's just not going to happen. So what I'll do is, if we're just talking about that setup that we were just talking about before, we're hanging out in the living room, there's a couple of pee pads around. If I see it's been about half an hour and the puppy's kind of sniffing around and doing the little walking around and doing their little spins, that's an opportunity where you get your puppy and you go outside as quick as you can. And while you see them go in the toilet on the grass, if you catch it with good timing, you have food in your pocket, you say toilet, 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 or whatever word you like to use. Then you say yes and then reward. So you have that marker charge in amongst all of your training. So then that way there, we're showing the puppy while they're toileting, we're shaping the word toilet on top of the action of toileting. And then we mark it with our yes, and they're going to be focused on us when we say that word, if you've charged it properly, and then we give that food to them. Now, if we can do this consistently for the first 2-3 weeks, we're going to start to see you're going to get into a pattern, but your puppy's also going to get into a pattern. Now, really, really good puppies will wait and they'll go outside on their own. That's awesome. But most of the time, it's not going to happen. The puppy's going to want to go to the toilet and they're going to want to go in that moment. Go back to the puppy pads. Those pee pads are spread out because we want that to be a temporary location for your puppy to go to the toilet. So if they go onto the puppy pad inside the house, you do the exact same thing. Toilet, 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 yes, and then reward them. Have treats spaced out, preferably close to where the pee pad is, so you don't have to go looking for treats. Have some space around so when they're doing it, you can reward them in the moment and keep on strengthening that behavior. Let's just say 3 weeks gone by, we're doing some peeing outside because you're catching it, or you're going and you're spending some time in the yard and the puppy's naturally going to be going onto the grass on its own. And let's just say that another percentage of the time, your puppy's peeing in the right spot on these pee pads. So if we're at this level now, we can then start moving these pee pads eventually to become just one pad inside the house. And that one will then start moving towards the door, the doggy door, or the area of the balcony, anywhere that you want the puppy to go. So we do a migratory process here. We don't just go, all right, cool, you're peeing on the pads, and then before you know it, they're all in one and then they disappear, because the puppy's just going to go, hey, there was a pad here yesterday, where did it go? So what you want to do is, if you got 100% reliability, your puppy's peeing on these pads here and nowhere else in the house, then we slowly start moving these pee pads. You move them like 30 centimeters every day. So if it's a small little shift, so if you have one here, and one there, inside this big room, you want to space them out so then these two can kind of get close together to one. These two can kind of get close to one. And then if that happens over the next week and a half, and the puppy's finding that pee pad to go to the toilet on, then we can start moving it 30 centimeters every day, closer and closer towards that door there. Hope that makes sense with my hands moving around, but I hope you guys get the point that we don't want to just go, cool, 3 becomes 1 and becomes no in like 3 days. That's just too much of it. No one wants the pee pads in the house, I get it, but it's important that we make this slow progress and for longer lasting results. Having a doggy door is really good. Think about having a doggy door installed into your screen door or even on a glass sliding door. For small dogs, you can install them in sliding glass doors. For larger dogs, you may not be able to cut a big hole, so check out Patio Link, or if you're not in Sydney, then check out what Patio Link is. their website, Google it, and then from there you can find different companies that are local to you that find it. It's basically a frame that fits inside the door frame, so then the sliding door can butt up towards it, so then we're not putting holes in the glass, because if you're renting, you may not be able to do that. So you have this panel there. It's a big tempered glass panel, and then at the bottom it has its doggy door. And then from there, if you want to move or you don't need it anymore, you remove it, and the door closes as per normal. So it's not any permanent thing. Or you can then install one yourself in your door there. But have a doggy door so your dog has access to go in and out of the house. Now, if the dog's outside, well then I guess you don't need a doggy door. If you don't want to put one, that's fine. But just make sure that if your puppy's inside the house or your dog's inside the house and it's been about half an hour and you haven't seen them go to the toilet yet, go outside before they have to go themselves, and then give them that opportunity. And if you get into this routine every half an hour, every 45 minutes for the first few weeks of your puppy's life, then you will slowly start opening that gap, so then maybe it becomes every hour or so. But it all just depends on each individual dog.